But I was wondering if you could take me back to a moment in your year nine English class when a student asked why the work mattered and how that question sparked a change for you.
Think I was kind of belated to come. I took the scenic route to get into teaching. So I started an education degree, found that the business of university was so far removed from what I thought
Mm,
the purpose of education was. And so I went kind of gallivanting overseas. So I say that because when I came into the classroom, it was because I had a love of coaching. I love
mm,
the role of the coach. And in a swimming context, I love seeing young people being able to do things that they didn't think they could do. And then I found myself in a classroom where these competing priorities of curriculum and assessment and were maybe pressing in on the reasons why I found myself in the profession in the first place. And so this, particular class that I was working with was a all boys class. They'd been selected because they had some challenges in education, and it was a year nine class, but they had a reading age of maybe grade 4 or grade 5. There was significant challenges at home, and attendance challenges, and it was that mixed bag of complexity that sits in our classrooms. And we'd brought all these young people together as sort of a targeted intervention in order to re-engage them back in education. And the challenge was we hadn't really revisited the core of what the curriculum was. We'd revisited maybe the pace, but not necessarily completely thought about, but is this an education that these young people are going to tap into? And so when this boy sort of looked at me and said, why are we doing this? It wasn't that it was the first time I'd heard the question. I mean, we all have those answers in the back of our pocket, right? Like, because it's important to learn how to learn, and you don't know when you'll need this in your future. And this is a really critical stepping stone that'll lead to other learning later that you'll really enjoy. Like we know these lines that serve in those moments. But when I looked at this particular young person, I remember thinking, I don't know, and it was a really confronting moment because I realized that what I was doing in the classroom wasn't serving this young person. And I felt really guilty in that moment for being so focused on the outcome that I'd forgotten the people that were in the
mm.
classroom.
That's really important. And I loved when I read that because it seemed like it was one of those moments where it just like forced you to stop and go, hang on a second. If I don't know why we're learning this, how on earth can I expect these young people to do that? Do you think it changed your approach to teaching, going into teaching later on in life and having some experience beforehand? Did that change the way that you approached teaching or the profession?
I definitely think that being a little bit older and having spent a little bit of time overseas and traveling and having found myself through travel, like I would advocate to every young person to gallivant, like adventure, because I think when you take yourself out of the environment that you've been created, it forces you to confront the version of yourself that other people perceive you to be and really question whether that's who you are. And so there's something really powerful about sitting in an environment where nobody knows you and going, actually, all of those things that I was back home, do I still want to be those things now when nobody's watching that knows what I'm supposed to do? So I think that was
Such a
important.
great question, isn't it? Like, am I doing this because my parents have done it? Am I doing this because this is how I raised? Is this actually my decision anymore?
And I feel like that perspective only comes with confronting challenge. Like, I don't think that those reflections on who you are and where you're going come in, green leafy moments where everything's traveling well. And so potentially, like, coming to teaching a little bit later provided me with that perspective to ask questions that a younger me certainly wouldn't have. I was quite a compliant young person in school. I did what I was told. I was a typical eldest child, followed all the rules, wanted to achieve. I think if that Nicole had gone straight from school to university and hadn't traveled, I probably just would have accepted the status quo in front of me and maybe not been brave enough to ask the question of whether this was the right way to do things.